Hey guys and gals and others, welcome back to my YouTube channel and podcast review, where we talk about movies, TV shows, and video games. Today we'll be talking about Wentworth, and this is the only channel directed, produced, and directed by an alien. I'm sorry he couldn't make it today. He was too busy probing the world and trying to fix humanity. Anyways, today we'll be talking about the disappointment of Wentworth. Yes, I just finished the whole entire season, and personally, I loved every bit of it, but at the same time, I'm really disappointed in it. I don't mean to be rude, because these actors and actresses did a phenomenal job at the part they played in, but at the same time, there were so many disappointments of this season. I had high expectations because season 8 was really not good. But here I'll be talking about the overview, how I felt about it, and what they could have did better. Now, the overview was, I was really disappointed in the way the layout was. The episode was way too short, and I feel like there's a lot of characters that served little to no purpose in this season that could have just died off. And I was really just disappointed. Another thing I want to explain is that also the cut content. There's a lot of cut content in this season that is shown in trailers and behind the scenes and Wentworth Unlocked that aren't in the show. Like, there was a whole explosion scene I remember they had showed that was really crazy, and it just seems like there's a lot of cut content between everything. Personally, as a little theory of mine, I really do believe that they maybe had changed scripts per COVID. So what I mean by that is, it seems like when COVID hit, they had to change their script a little bit more, fix it to their liking so everybody can social distance. Personally, that's what I believe, because there's a lot of cut content that should be in the show that's not really revealed, like Rita's stunt double, that explosion in that trailer, the scene where Eve has like a bottle in her hand, or somebody's about to hit Jake. Like, again, cut content and probably many more cut contents than there really wasn't. Another thing that I really disliked about this season is the characters. I was so disappointed in Rita Connor's character. I'll be going through a list from Rita probably all the way to Joan, explaining on how they could have did every character storyline to make it better. The first one I'll be talking about is Rita. Rita Connors was such a powerful character in Prisoner Cell Block H and in Wentworth in general. She had this big boss attitude that everybody loved. And in this season, she was just a bystander, literally just looking, standing around, not doing anything. And it was just so disappointing to see this. She was literally weak. And I hated to see this from Rita's character. And I was very disappointed. To make Rita's character better, she should have been in way more fight scenes and a way more difficult situation that she had to use action, like she had to use her physical hands. Oh, before I get into the other characters, another thing I wanted to bring up is that I know a lot of the time, a lot of the characters had amazing plots in this season, but they had no action. Like, I can bring up a lot of characters that had this issue. And another thing as well, in Season 8 Part 1 and Season 7, there was a lot of scenes that kind of said, like, so the whole point of Season 8 Part 1 was a pre-season to show us what would happen in Season 8 Part 2, is what I assumed. And there's a lot of scenes that they show us something might happen in the next season, and a lot of people's predictions had relevance to Season 8 to Season 9, so it kind of interconnects. While in this season, it doesn't interconnect at all. I wanted to point that out too. And another thing, the trailers show complete opposite of what the show is. But back to how they could have did the characters better. I feel like for Mari's character, Mari should have never been the manipulator in this situation. Like, if you really can tell from the season, she's the one that causes all the chaos and drama. But I feel like this doesn't make sense for Mari's, because she's the redeeming character. If she was a redeeming character, she should have redeemed other characters in the show and tried to make them do good deeds, and maybe during the good deeds she was doing, she gets killed off by a villain. That would have been a better way to end her, story arc. Another character I would be talking about is Allie. Allie had an amazing plot. Allie had two plots. Allie could have been with Dr. Miller, or she could have been killing Judy, which I thought she was going to plan to kill Judy and Lou to underestimate her being in a wheelchair, not to underestimate her. But of course, they never really gave her that plot. They kind of gave her like a kind of like sad, depressing plot, which is fine, but they could have took it to her advantage by her trying to kill Judy at every chance she could have got. This would create a great conflict between Allie and Judy, and I think they should have done that to make more of a suspense. Next, we will be talking about Eve Wilder. Eve Wilder was a huge disappointment to the series. I thought she could have been at rivalry with the guards and the prison guards instead of with the prison, and the way she ended was just such a disappointment. My next I will be talking about is Ruby. Ruby should have died off easy. There's no storyline for her. She should have never been in it. Boomer was one of the best characters. Boomer had a plot and she initiated action. Boomer's plot was to have a baby with Gavin, get impregnated by Gavin, and stay out of trouble, and have a family. And we didn't get to really see that in the last episode, but at the end of the day, it was still initiated, and she had a plot and a strong plot, and she went through it. Another character that was really disappointing was Judy Bryant. I feel like this story lacked a huge villain, and the villain considerably was Luke Kelly, but in my opinion, I don't really think she was a good villain. I think she would be better. She was a bystander villain, more like to say. I think a better villain would have been maybe not Joan, but maybe Judy, because Judy is a terrorist, and Judy is like the new face of Wentworth. So instead of Mari hearing all the drama and like spreading the drama to make it worse, I think Judy should have been the one to do it and then suffer the consequences. I think that would have been a better death, a more brutal death, and again, we didn't get a brutal death. Another thing I was very disappointed is a lot of characters should have died in this season, and I feel like they didn't get good deaths. They got pointless deaths. I feel like every character was so unique. They should have got their own death experience. Okay, back to how they should have did the plot better. Mr. Jackson, well, he should have died as well. There was no plot for him. He should have died. Jake as well too. It would have been a nice sacrifice to see him, die. Vera, I would have liked to saw more rivalry between Vera and Joan, and maybe Eve Wilder even. But also Lou, I really wish she had more of like a bystander type of villain, just with Rita maybe, not the prisoners or anything like that. Anne was pretty good. I would have loved to see Anne and Linda become very good at like discrimination towards the officers and even the prisoners. I would have loved to see that more and more brutal. Two characters that I wish could have had better death scenes is Reb. Another theory, like I said, a lot of the things in Season 8 should have been shown in Season 9. Like in Season 8, we all kind of predicted that Reb would die. And hear me out, I know this is kind of sound crazy, but Reb's death was kind of supposed to be... Again, this show was supposed to be the most deadliest season. So from what I heard from the leaks and rumors, Reb's death was supposed to be, because in Season 8 he complained about he hated his body. He hates the body that he was in because it was a woman's body. He wanted to be in a man's body. Now the thing is, from what I heard, was he was supposed to skin his body alive. Like literally skin and peel his skin off because he hated his body so much because he suffered from body dysmorphia. I thought this would have been a perfect death scene for him. But of course he got this whack death scene. Sheila's death scene was also pretty whack. Sheila's death scene should have been more crazy because in Season 8, Sheila's shown to look disgusted by seeing the LGBTQ in prison, the love of the gay and lesbians. So in this scene, I thought that possibly that maybe because she was from a cult leader, maybe she would start a genocide where maybe she killed all the LGBTQ or, did something horrifying to that community, but she just ended up killing Reb, which was such a disappointment. I think for Joan's character, instead of her not doing anything, maybe instead of her fighting the prisoners, maybe she could have been like, now that she is the prisoner, maybe she could have been fighting off the guards. I think that would have been a better plot line for her. Maybe instead of her fighting, doing nothing, just sitting there, maybe she should have went after Dr. Miller, Jake, Will, Vera, even Vera's baby. We didn't even get to see Vera's baby in this season, and it's such a disappointment. Joan could have really terrorized all like this prisoner staff, and I think that would have been an amazing plot for her this season because she went from governor to prisoner, and I would have loved to saw that arc with her. And I would have loved to see more fight scenes included. I was so disappointed in that. And that is really it for the arc of how I feel like they should have ended it. I feel like they should have ended it like this. I think there should have been a better explosion than what we got. I don't know what the hell that was. I think it should have showed everything. Not the aftermath, not the middle of the siege, just everything happening at once. I wish they had did that one more. I wish we got to see unique death scenes for everybody. I wish we got to see Lou and Rita fight more to the death maybe. I would have loved to saw a Vera and Joan fight scene. I know like Vera's considered weak, but I would have loved to saw a death scene between the two. But what we got was this crabby little wax scene where she arrests Lou. Like, I didn't like that personally. I wish it was more extended. And again, I want them to release what the show would have been, because again, it does really seem like they changed a lot of the plot, because the trailers and behind the scenes show a complete different story, a better story than what we got in the show. I was so mad. The first 3 episodes were amazing. I was like, okay, it has to pick up after this. And it just didn't pick up, and I was so disappointed. I was really disappointed in that, because I thought there was so many different casts, the diversity was there, there were different characters' personality traits. And I thought between every character having a different motive, maybe it would have showed more conflict and more conflict happening. At the very end, they all come together to terrorize at their own agendas. It should have been exactly like that, but we never even got that. I think out of 1 out of 10, I think I would give this a 7, because actors were great. The director was amazing. Everything was great, but the story was just really not as good as old Wentworth would have been. And that is it on the Alien review. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell.